Hi, my name is Dermot Foley. I'm a physiotherapist. I'm from Monaghan, Ireland originally. I'm 36. And my path to anxiety is an interesting one. About 5 years ago, after being out drinking, I woke up one morning and I had anxiety, which I thought was alcohol related, and it generally didn't go away for about 9 months. That proceeded to high levels of insomnia, which proceeded to depression, and from there it led to a very dark place where I thought that I didn't really want to be part of this world anymore. So it's not a very long time ago that I suffered really, really badly. For me, it was a very tough encounter with an emotion that I've never dealt with before. Other than playing in sports or doing an exam, I never suffered with anxiety. My anxiety was quite interesting. It was always a fear in my stomach. It was always a heart palpitation. It was sweaty hands. It was racing thoughts. It was the inability to really think clearly, like a cloudiness around my head. And that led to an inability to switch off my thinking and getting involved in my thinking a lot, and believing the thoughts that I was telling myself. I first encountered body scans, which was an interesting way of trying to settle my body, because I knew my body was worked up for vast portions of the day. So I encountered it by accident from a doctor in New Zealand who asked me to do some progressive muscle relaxation, and from that I found a body scan, and it was the first time that I'd fallen asleep during the day without sleeping tablets in about 12 months, 9 months, 12 months. And I saw that there was something to using my body as a method of settling my head, which has not ever been something I've been aware of. But in saying that, whenever I had real, true anxiety and panic at work, I used to excuse myself to go to the toilet, cover myself in cold water from the sink, and then return back to my patients purely to manage my anxiety and panic attacks. So I didn't really know what I was doing at that point, but now with the value of hindsight and reflection, I can see that I was really grounding my body and coming back into my body, taking the energy away from my head and into my very intelligent body that I have. So that was my first encounter. From there I went to a retreat in Ireland. I knew nothing of mindfulness. I knew nothing of Thich Nhat Hanh. I went on the retreat because one of my friends decided that he was going to go. He didn't go. He pulled out, and I went by myself and encountered some nuns and monks with shaved head and brown robes, and I didn't really know what to think. And we did some meditations, and I had a lot of the stuff that I was ignoring and actively avoiding come to visit me. And with that, there was a day and a half of suffering. And then after that day and a half of suffering, I with the support of the people around me and the people who were meditating, I was able to sit with that stuff. I say I sat. It's not like I sit now, but it's more so as I knew that I was kind of out of options. I was at a point where I didn't really have a lot of hope, and I really found that sitting with a vast amount of people really gave me a lot of strength. Strangely, I didn't really know what a family or sangha was from a meditating point of view, but it definitely helped. After the day and a half, I found a day and a half of peace, of sleeping, of non-medicated sleeping, of true peace in my body and peace in my head, like a gap between the thoughts. And I knew that there was something to this, so I investigated a little bit more. I looked at this guy called Thich Nhat Hanh, or Thai. I listened to a few of his podcasts and Dharma talks, and a lot of the a lot of the subject matter, especially with regards to suffering, related to me, I felt specifically. So for the next 12 or 18 months, Thich Nhat Hanh talked me to sleep at night time. And I formed a real relationship with the teachings, I suppose, of Thich Nhat Hanh, and especially with myself. It wasn't all related to Buddhism. In fact, I could say it was probably 25% Buddhism and maybe 75% investigating what I like to do myself. So I started playing the guitar, I started singing, I started carving wood. One day I was carving wood and I forgot that I was a problem for a whole 4 hours. So I knew that there was again something in the ability to lose yourself in doing something that you really love and you're really passionate about. And the same with playing the guitar and singing, and my work became an outlet as well. And all of these things led to an ability to manage it, and to manage the anxiety. I still had periods of anxiety that were excessive, but generally related to a subject or a subject matter that I could understand. I also sat in quite a few therapy sessions, spent a lot of money on my brain, and I found that being able to rationally think through why anxiety was there gave me a lot of solace and gave me a lot of awareness as to the whys behind the anxiety. I see anxiety now as a useful emotion. It tells me when I'm not being either honest with myself or honest with others. It's also highly motivational, and it has a lot of pluses to it, pluses I didn't see in the past. Now I reach into a thing called a wellness toolbox. I can see that there's certain activities that I really enjoy to do, and they help not for me to avoid my pain and me to avoid my suffering, but things that actually give me some joy in my life, which is important, because I think there's the ability to be able to hold an emotion, which is, for me, I try not to go into the story anymore. I try and come into my body, take my energy away from my head and the stories that go on in my head, and I try and use my body as a method of grounding myself. So as an example, with anxiety, I try and give it a place in my body, a location, a depth. I try and give it as opposed to it being my anxiety, I call it, I'm sensing an anxiety, because the emotion doesn't define me anymore. It's just it's an emotion. And then I try and hold that emotion. I try and hold it with true care and compassion. I try and hold it with a care and a love that I have for my baby sister or my niece or my nephew, something that really brings up a lot of love in me, and then I try and hold that emotion for myself without trying to change it, I suppose, is the key. That really does give me a lot of help at the moment where I'm feeling quite anxious or quite upset. From a management in the future point of view, I can see that anxiety is there as a teacher, and that I don't feel as fearful of the anxiety anymore, because anxiety is future-based worry, and I now know that the present moment I'm always okay, and truly in the present moment I don't have that anxiety. There's also an ability to bring up another emotion instead of anxiety, like joy or peace or happiness. But this requires a certain level of commitment both to yourself and to your emotional health or your mental health.